You will never do what you judge others for doing. And you may think to yourself, wait, but Peter, that's a good thing. Like, I wouldn't want to do what I judge others for doing because that probably means I shouldn't do it. And that is the case sometimes, but that isn't the case a lot of the times. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that judgment should be completely erased from your entire mind. And so here is an example. If I am judging someone by what they wear, let's say they're wearing, I don't know, a Spider-Man jacket, for example, right? And if I judge that, then I will never ever wear a Spider-Man jacket. And you might think, okay, that's pretty harmless. Okay, so let's take another step, right? So let's say we're in an auditorium and there's an incredibly famous speaker, or maybe we're in a classroom and you want to raise your hand, but you think to yourself, I don't like that other guy that raises his hand and makes a fool of himself and doesn't know what he's saying and his questions are stupid and raises his hand too long and he's keeping up the class behind and he's just cringe and cheesy when he does it. So when you see that guy raise his hand for those types of questions or that question, you judge him. And so what's the side effect of that? You will never, or maybe not always, not often, raise your hand to ask questions. You will never raise your hand to provide input because you are scared. You fear that others will judge you for doing the same thing. You fear that other people will think, wow, this guy's cringe. Why is this guy asking all these questions? But that judgment will make it so that you are unable to see the benefits on the other side of that action. For example, raising your hand in class or raising your hand when a guest speaker is asking for questions. The benefits include you developing a bond with the guest speaker or your professor, which would then lead to meaningful conversations, which would then lead to meaningful relationships, which you never know how that may open doors for you. And I can say it has opened a lot of doors for me. Professors remember my name. Incredibly famous and successful guest speakers have remembered my name and my face. But that's only because I do not judge people for raising their hands, no matter how stupid the question is, no matter how cheesy or maybe obnoxious it may seem to others. I don't feel that way. And so I have all the liberty in the world to raise my hand and ask and say whatever I want. Now, does my heart still palpitate and does it still, do I still get nervous and anxious and my heart beating fast whenever I do raise up and say what I gotta say? Yes, of course, it never goes away. But it allows me to at least have a chance to do that. And so here's the final one to really send this home. If you are a person that hates wealthy people and you hate billionaires and you believe that people with money are evil, well, I hate to break it to you, you will never have a lot of money in your life. You will never become a millionaire. You will never become a billionaire, and you will find making money actually incredibly difficult. Because if you believe people with a lot of money are evil, then what does it mean if you do have money? Interesting to think about, huh? So this is kind of what I mean by erase as much judgment as you can from your life. It doesn't serve you in any sort of way. And if someone is living a life in which you do not want to live your life, that's okay. You just don't have to live it. But there's no reason to judge them for it. And I fall victim to this all the time. And I have to constantly remind myself, it's like a ticker, bam, bam. Like, what are you doing? Stop judging, stop judging, stop judging. Because it quite literally brings no value to nobody. And so the most effective way of going about this is literally just saying, that's cool. Like literally just making it an observation, noting it, and simply saying that is simply how I do not want to live my life. Or that is simply how I do not want to live my life. And that's okay. I'm not judging anybody for it, but that's just how I choose to live. So with that being said, today I met Eric Ries. He is the author of Lean Startup, and he just launched a brand new book called Incorruptible. And I raised my hand, and I stood up, and I asked these questions that he answered very shortly. My questions to him were like, how did you come up with these counterintuitive and also incredible concepts? Like, how did you learn how to think? And he answered very shortly, I just seek the truth. And then the second question I asked was, if you can condense, for the people who only read the first 2 chapters of the book, because it was like a running joke, if you could condense the entire book into one actionable sentence, what would it be for the audience? And he said, well, if I could have done that, I would have done that, but the book in the end of itself is as shortened as I could go. And that was pretty much it. So when I sat down, I could feel my face like being so flustered, and I was a little embarrassed. And ultimately, I'm okay. You don't make all the shots that you don't make all the shots that you shoot. But I will say this: he did tell me. Oh, I also asked him, like, okay, they moved on from that, and I was about to ask him a follow-up question, and he had already pointed to someone else, and they're midway speaking. I was like, oh, what would you say is your favorite part of the book? Oh my gosh, that was embarrassing. But but because of that, he did say, I just finished laboring this book of 2 years, so I don't really have a favorite. But you how about this? You read the book, and then you tell me what your favorite part was, your favorite concept was. So I think he'll remember me, because I'm the guy that embarrassed himself by standing up and asking these interesting questions. But hey, better to be remembered than to be forgotten, right? But today was a pretty good day. I went to class, and it was just a good time. So I need to sleep. I need to set boundaries for myself when it comes to calling people. And also hanging out with people. I cannot do that past 10 p.m. because my judgment decreases significantly. Or rather, my ability to make sound judgments diminishes incredibly so past 10 p.m. And I just can't think. And I am impulsive, and I give into temptations, whether it be playing Brawl Stars with my boys or talking about random stuff that doesn't even matter. So I gotta stay focused, gotta set those boundaries. Otherwise, I'm gonna be wandering everywhere, and I will never find my destination that I really want to be at. So with that being said, this is the PLOG V1.228, I believe. Remember to be better daily, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.